Welcome to All Things Retreat Podcast. I'm Holly Porter, your host and CEO of Retreat R&R. With over 25 years of experience in designing transformative retreats, I'm here to share insights and inspiration to help you create extraordinary experiences. Whether you're a pro or just starting out, you'll find valuable ideas here. Enjoy the ride. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show today. We're going to be talking about some really, really amazing stuff, all about emotions, because if you're women or men, it doesn't matter. We all seem to need emotional support at times. And our speaker today is going to just fill us all in on all of the amazing things that he has, that he helps people with that. He's a most high achieving professional, silently struggling with stress, overwhelm, and burnout, caught between building their businesses and serving everyone but themselves. We're going to say Dr. K. He can verify his long name that I probably won't say. We'll call him Dr. K. He's an emotional health mentor to entrepreneurs, executives, and their companies. Through his 5 pillars of emotional health, psychology, relationships, nutrition, sleep, and movement, he helps people reconnect with their inner wonder and step into their ideal selves. He graduated from Cornell University in 2005 with degrees in applied economics and management and biology. He went on to pursue a successful career on Wall Street, but after running into the wall of burnout himself, Dr. K left his career to go to medical school. He graduated from Sonoran, am I saying that right? University and Health Sciences with his doctorate of naturopathic medicine in 2017. He's a national keynote speaker and author of a bestseller called Emotionally Healthy You, How to Own Your Past and Love Your Future. Dr. K reminds us to stop chasing joy and begin living in wonder. So welcome to the show, Dr. K.
Thank you for having me, Holly. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, so happy to have you. Been looking forward to this. Anyway, what's your story? Let's hear a little bit more about how this all about. That's quite a bio of starting where you were to where you are now.
Yeah, it's it's one of those things where when we're high achieving people, right? We want to do great things. We want to perform well. We want to make a difference in the lives of people around us. And it's very easy when you're in that space to really go back to previous patterns, especially when it comes to handling stress. And so I found myself in the middle of my Wall Street career, which, by the way, was during the Great Recession. I was just a young professional in my early 20s. One morning in September 2008, walking into the office, sitting down, getting started with a normal day, getting breakfast, and all of us, we had TVs with the CNBC, running everywhere. And we look up and we see Lehman Brothers goes bankrupt. And it hits us all at the same time that this is our next door neighbor. Like, they're the tower right next to us. And so hundreds of us just run over to the other side of the floor and we look down, and it's this surreal moment where you're just seeing thousands of people walking out, from the height that we were, just seeing thousands of people walking out with their filing boxes. And I just remember just thinking at that time, they just came to work on a Monday like I did, right? Like all of us did. And they had no clue that this 165-year-old bank was going to go under over the weekend. And now they've got to go back, tell their families, figure out their finances, what's the next step in their careers. And it's not like there was a lot of hiring going on. If anything, it was the other way around. And so I knew that was coming. So I responded the only way I knew how, right? Work harder. Does that sound familiar? Probably, right? Work harder, make yourself more indispensable. And it paid off, though. I got promoted to associate and then vice president faster than anyone in my department ever had, at least at that point in time. And so fast forward a few years, and I was in my own apartment for the first time in my life, 30th floor skyrise, beautiful view of the New Jersey horizon. And I was standing up there one night, just looking at the thousands of lights across the sky, little dots across the sky, reflecting on, the 12, 14, 18-hour days that I'd put in repeatedly for years on end, checking the BlackBerry in the middle of the night when I knew I had to get up at 4:30 in the morning, sometimes the next day, and missed family events and all those sacrifices that I made to get to that point. And here
Yeah.
I was, in, my mid late 20s, making more money than I thought I would at that point in time. Really good career opportunities. Paid off my undergraduate student loans. I had paid off my parents' credit card debt. I was giving more to charity than I ever thought I could at that age. And I hated the man in the mirror.
Mm.
Just nothing I could do that ever escaped that feeling of not being good enough. And no
Oh,
matter what that level of achievement was, I just couldn't outrun myself. Now, I didn't share that struggle with anyone else. And, if anything, I was your best employee, the one that you wanted something done right, done fast, sensitive client issue, give it to Karthik, he'll take care of it. And I was suffering massively inside and nobody knew. And I kept it that way, right? Because if anything, I didn't want to put myself on the chopping block for cost reductions and all that stuff. And so I just kind of tolerated it until I couldn't anymore. And when you hit rock bottom, it's certainly a difficult place to be when you're in it, but it's also a beautiful place to be because you're willing to do something that you would not have been willing to say yes to otherwise. You're willing to give things a shot that otherwise you just feel like I have nothing to lose. And that's where I was. And just as fate would have it, as the universe often gives us what we need at the right time, I had seen my sister during Christmas, and then again 3 months later for her spring break from college. And so I went upstate to visit her and my parents. And during that time, 3 months, she had lost 30 pounds. Her cystic acne had cleared up. She was vibrant, energetic, and just so alive in a way that I hadn't seen in years. And I just said, whatever she did, I'm going to do. And so I asked her what she did, and she tells me about this raw food, plant-based diet that she was doing. And I was like, oh my God, this sounds horrible. Show me how to do this, right? Because rock bottom. What do I have to lose?
yeah.
Anyway, so I just realized one thing, though. At that point in time, my perfectionistic attitude, being a people pleaser, if I can't do it perfectly, it's not worth doing it at all. I don't want to do anything that would let anyone else down. Don't want to disappoint anybody. And so I would only selectively say yes to things that I knew I could excel at, and then strategically back away or sabotage things that I knew I wouldn't have a chance of succeeding at. This time I said, you know what? My best ideas in life have gotten me here. A lot of professional success, personally miserable. So I figured, let's just do something else. And I gradually changed the way I ate. I released all expectation. I just nothing to lose. Just see what happens. Well, 3 weeks in, I'm feeling really good. And I look down at the scale for the first time in 3 weeks, and I see the lowest number that I'd ever seen as an adult.
Wow.
And that was the moment my mind blew open. I felt this physiological reaction go through my body, and it was like something lifted, this veil that I was looking through my entire life. And suddenly something pierced that. And it was simply, what if the confidence I wanted, which is really about finding the relationship I wanted, which is really about finding the life that I wanted, what if all of that is possible? And the only thing holding me back was me. Yeah, I had all this professional success, but what I really wanted was a great marriage and meaningful work. And those two things I felt I was so far from.
Yeah.
But again, what if the only thing holding me back was me? And so I went through this journey of self-discovery there, where I just said, all right, let's just see where this takes me. And sure enough, people along the way were noticing, physical changes and, little behavioral changes. You're going from even when you put on a mask, so to speak, and pretend everything's okay, and people know that something's not right. But when you're actually in a very energized, enlivened state, people notice that. And so they did. And I'd give people recipes and bring in food to the office so they can try. And people lost weight, but I saw type 2 diabetes, chronic migraines, chronic joint pain, hypertension, all these chronic issues just disappear. I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing, but this is pretty cool. So I got to figure out how to do this for a living. Anyway, I learned about naturopathic medicine. I decided, you know what? This is the worst financial decision I will ever make in my life to leave this career, go into a ton of debt, spend all my life savings in the process, and then on the other side, start a business. So who knows how long that'll take. But I just felt called to do something that was in the service of others, learning from, that journey, at least up until that point. So anyway, I moved to Arizona to go to medical school, and I realized at that point in time that nobody knew who I was. So if there was ever a chance to reinvent that, this was it. And so I designed this ideal version of myself, the ideal Dr. K of the future, the guy that I'm building. And I really outlined every aspect of his personality, his habits, routines, all of these things, even if that wasn't me at that point in time. And I said, okay, well, if I'm going to become that guy, then I need to figure out how to implement what he would do and just do that today. And so that was the blueprint that I took. And in the process, I did meet the love of my life in medical school. We were in the same class. Took us a year to, really start connecting and dating and all that. But we got married a year after medical school. And I also recognized, unlike her, who loves ordering labs, calling in scripts, all the regular doctor things, I knew that wasn't exactly my passion. I wanted to take the platform and all the knowledge and use it to solve a different challenge, which was people were starting to talk about burnout and overwhelm and things like that in a much more openly in entrepreneurship and certainly corporate America in 2017, 18, 19. And I thought, you know what, I can bring something different to this, because there's generally two approaches to mental health in modern society. We've got our counseling and psychotherapy, which is incredibly powerful when you get the right person, the right therapist, and the right therapy. I needed EMDR at one point in my life. I recommend EMDR for a lot of folks. Very helpful. And then you've got the psychiatry approach with drugs. And certainly when you have somebody who's suffering and needs something acutely, or there's certain conditions that just necessitate, certain medication, that's powerful too. However, my journey to emotional health came through food. So there's more to this picture. And so as I started exploring this, both looking at, the medical research and everything that I had studied, plus the really reflecting on my own journey and looking at patient outcomes and things that I had seen along the way, I developed what I call the 5 pillars of emotional health. And so it's fundamentally this. If we think about a plant that wasn't doing well, right? Our instinct would be to give it, make sure the sunlight was good, the soil maybe needs some more water, maybe less water, all of those things. And nobody ever says, let's find it the right medication, at least first, right? And so why is it that with the human being, we think differently? Because we just know that the plant is designed for nature, and therefore it just must not be getting what it normally would get in nature. But guess what? Holly, you and I are designed for nature too. You, the listener here, you're also designed for nature. We all were. Everything about our body, our mind is designed to thrive in nature, and which is probably why a lot of the retreats are so well loved, right? Is because we get a chance to get out of our regular stressful environment and go into a place that we are biologically better designed for. That alone, that part alone, let alone everything else that happens at the event, is an incredible move toward our emotional well-being. So if we take that same approach to our emotional health, these are the 5 pillars. Number 1, your psychology, understanding this lens through which we see the world, our own mind, the study of our own mind. How did we develop who we are? Because we are, as babies, we don't have much instinct other than to feed, to cry. But when we, everything that we've learned after that has been because of our environment, our learnings, things that happen to us, around us. So everything else builds from there. And then we filter current events through that lens. So understanding that lens is vital to having better emotional intelligence, both within ourselves and even being able to understand another human being, whether it's relationships, whether it's at the workplace, anything of the sort. Number 2, relationships. We are the average of the 5 people and ideas that we spend the most time with. And generally, 95% of people are past protectors, people who are eager to really conserve energy, which, by the way, nobody's wrong for being a past protector. That is how we are designed. We're not designed to just willy-nilly spend energy rewiring our brain, because that's not advantageous in nature to spend energy when energy is scarce. Food is hard to acquire in nature. For a lot of us today, not as much, right? And so the body's designed to conserve that. So anytime you're asking somebody to change their mind or create a new perspective, it goes against the grain of what the body even wants to do. But 5% of people are people who consciously make that choice to say, yes, I'm going to I'm going to question everything I know. I'm going to always seek greater knowledge, even if it conflicts with what I think I know, all of those things. And when you surround yourself with other growth seekers, those 5%ers, that becomes a completely transformative experience, because now that is the way you start to think. We start to adapt to the behaviors and patterns of the people around us, and they also, in turn, adapt to ours. So it becomes a very positive thing. And number 3 is nutrition, pillar of emotional health. Number 3. So 90% of our neurotransmitters, the serotonin, dopamine, GABA, all these critical compounds that literally dictate how we think, act, and feel. They operate our nervous system, upregulate, downregulate, do different functions. 90% of them, we don't even make them ourselves. They're made by the bacteria that live in our gut. And the strains of bacteria that live in our gut is directly reflective of the foods that we eat. Yes, there are other factors as well, but the food is a giant component. And so our gut health and our emotional health are vitally connected. So quick example, the vagus nerve, which, as we all know, very vital for relaxation and parasympathetic tone. So that innervates our pacemaker, our diaphragm for breathing. It innervates our guts, right, for digestion and everything else. Vital body functions. If those don't work, we are no longer alive. And yet, the vagus nerve, only 10% of the fibers travel from brain to gut. 90% of the fibers travel from gut to brain. So all of that information that is going from down here to up here, when we have that gut feeling about something, there's kind of the truth to that. It is, in a way, our second brain. Number 4, sleep. It's the first thing to go when we're busy, but it's vital for our long-term brain health. It's vital for just having better emotional resilience day in and day out. So I talk a lot about circadian rhythm, normalizing your cortisol and melatonin, sunlight exposure, all these things that are vital for just giving ourselves a chance to have some good sleep. Now, granted, as business owners, as busy people, yes, you're going to have those days that throw you off. It's not about being perfect. None of this is about being perfect. It's about making progress in the right direction and at least having a foundation for, okay, more often than not, I have the environment around me to have a good night of sleep, puts us in the right direction. And number 5, body movement, because motion dictates emotion. It's not just the exercise. It's just being in constant low grade motion, like we've all learned from the blue zones and some of those things in terms of longevity. But also, it's body movement is the quickest way to shift our emotional state. When you get down and do 10 push-ups, you're probably not thinking as much about what you're stressed out about. You're probably thinking about getting through those 10 push-ups, and then you feel really good afterward with the endorphins. So it's one of those things. And so psychology, relationships, nutrition, sleep, body movement, it's a very simple framework, really. Obviously, the execution is not easy, but that's where we can really implement some simple foundations and simple practices that even among busy, high achieving entrepreneurs, that we can still move in the direction of emotional well-being.
I love it. Yeah. Oh, I love it. Well, and let's refer, just for more depth for you, the book back to The Emotionally Healthy You, How to Own Your Past and Love Your Future. So can you get that on Amazon? Is that the best place to send them, or?
Yes. So on Amazon, if you search Emotionally Healthy You, or you can go to emotionallyhealthyu.com. That's where, so I go through the 5 pillars of emotional health, and I talk about a lot of different frameworks that I've developed over the years with clients to help implement some of those things. So for instance, we talk a lot about boundaries, right? So hot take, I'm not a huge fan of boundaries the way that they are normally defined. I prefer a different method of standards. Because to me, a boundary is this impenetrable barrier. And sometimes people put those boundaries a little too close and then avoid things that otherwise might actually be a fulfilling outcome in life in the name of boundaries. So I like to think of boundaries as that outermost layer that, okay, no matter what, I'm not crossing that one. And these would be the things that, around our morality, around things that, under no circumstance would we, commit some kind of crime, that sort of thing. Let those be the boundaries. But the ones in terms of what we will and will not tolerate, that would be more of a standard. So I talk about different frameworks like that and how to implement it in our day-to-day life. And it is for the high achiever. It is for the person that wants to grow. And that doesn't necessarily mean that we're always able to implement all the things all the time. That's not the point. It's just having it all there so that, doing one thing to make all the other things easier. And then we just work our way up.
So let's talk about the high achievers for a minute. What are some of the challenges you see most from them, that group of people?
Yeah. So, for a lot of people, it's having a very good heart, wanting to make a difference. A lot of my clients, whether they're entrepreneurs or executives, having that desire to make a difference, but it comes at the expense of something else. So one thing I hear often is, I don't like who I'm becoming for my family.
Oh,
Right. And oftentimes that comes from a place of awareness because they recognize that maybe how they might have been treated by one or both parents when they were younger was something they never wanted to be consciously. They always operated that way. But because of the stress of day-to-day life, they're noticing that some of those things are happening. And it's like, I don't want to become that. Or even if they do manage to take care of their business, take care of their families, then it becomes I'm not taking care of myself. And I feel like I'm constantly pouring from an empty cup. And so I have a different approach to that, especially when it comes to when you're already stretched thin and then somebody tells you, oh, just do some deep breathing or meditate or whatever. Like, to add something to our plate just seems like the worst thing to do. Right. And
yeah.
so where I start with those folks is, let's simplify. Let's create emotional well-being by taking something off of your plate. And when you really break down all the things that we do, oftentimes there are things, especially as entrepreneurs, right, that we can train somebody else and delegate, that we can eliminate. Maybe it's really not moving the needle as much as we thought. Maybe we're spending too much time dealing with a certain group of clients that might be a lot of headache and not a lot of revenue. And maybe it's just better to just lovingly let them go. And it's some of those things that can actually create a lot of movement in the right direction without actually adding anything. And so those are two things that I see a lot, is either, successful in the business, but maybe family life is suffering or their personal health. Although there is a third one, which is the ones who recognize that, just like I mentioned in my own story, maybe the only one holding me back is me. When they recognize that, wait, my progress in this business is limited by this operating system between my ears, right? And here's a simple way it comes up often, especially for new business owners, is pricing, right? It's so easy to look at, well, what does somebody else charge, versus actually saying, what value am I bringing, and what is the market? What does my ideal client want? And is there a marriage between those two numbers?
Right.
And there's certainly a starting point and you work your way up and whatever it is. But at the same time, if somebody's internal self-worth or stories and the truths that they have in their mind about what money means is in antithesis to what they're trying to do to grow their business, there will be the silent self-sabotage and any of those things. And that's another obstacle that I see with a lot of high achievers as well.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt. And I think when you said weight, I think about weight in so many different ways. You can be weighted emotionally, physically, and mentally. And if you don't, they're all heavy at some point, and you've got to just pick through and make things the best you can. And yeah, it's
Absolutely.
interesting how I've watched a lot of entrepreneurs in my lifetime, because that's who I hang out with, just be so out of balance in even one of those areas, and it just seems like their life's off. And you're right, it shows. So these were great tips, and I'm sure your book will be able to even give even more. So I really appreciate you coming on the show. And really, most of our audience are retreat leaders, and I hope it's something that you can hear today from Dr. K and use some of these tips into your lives. It's interesting that we've had somebody talk about dance on here and sleep recently on our shows. So if you want to dig a little deeper with those things he mentioned on how to move the body, those are some of the shows you can go grab and listen to. Other than that, you have one last little tip or anything you can leave our audience today?
Yeah, I would just say this, right? If you're struggling and you're worried about what are people going to think, I need to portray strength or that I've got my stuff together, right?
Yeah.
One thing I've learned despite all of the people I've worked with at whatever stage of business is that there's always some degree of maybe imposter syndrome, some degree of self-criticism, some degree of just thinking it's only them that's dealing with it. And just from my shoes, take it for what it's worth. Everyone's got something, even if they look like they have it all together. So all that means is that silence the negative voice in your head for a moment and just do what you got to do to move in the direction of who you want to be. Stop living a reflection of your past. Create a vision of who you want to be in the future, your ideal self. Live into that vision. Stop chasing joy and begin living in wonder.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I have to add, somebody told me the other day, I had to look it up to get it right. Your story is someone else's survival guide. And I love that. Really, everybody has their own unique story. Quit trying to be like everybody else and just be you. Love
That's
it.
right. I love
Well,
that.
thank you. And thank you, audience, for listening today, and come back and join us. We'll, as just a reminder, we'll have all of Dr. K's information in the show notes, so you can go grab it there. And maybe we'll make sure the link to the book's in there as well, so you can grab it easily. Okay. Well, until next time, bye for now, everybody.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of All Things Retreat. We hope you're leaving with new ideas, fresh inspiration, and the motivation to take your retreats to the next level. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. It helps us grow and reach more retreat leaders like you. And if you have any questions, topics you'd like us to cover, or just want to say hello, send us an email at info@weretreatrnr.com. Follow us on social media to stay connected and catch all the latest updates. Until next time, remember, great retreats start with great intentions. Let's make them extraordinary, one step at a time.